Good evening and welcome to VI Voices. Tonight we continue with our election coverage as we begin with the senatorial campaign. And tonight we're going to have with us George Moore, Kurt Vialet, and Novelle Francis. Because we're going to be having our senatorial aspirants on the show, and there'll be 3 of them, we will not be having our usual hot topics for these shows, but we want to make sure we get everybody in and get as much out of them as we can. So this begins a series with our political aspirants for the senatorial race on our show, and we'll have as many of them as we can, and many of them that accept to come on the show. And so with that being said, we'll be back with Mr. George Moore. Back in a moment. Welcome back, everybody. We have with us tonight our first person that we're going to be talking about, who is running for a seat, a Democratic seat nominee for the senatorial election for general election 2014, Mr. George Moore. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So, Mr. Moore, this is not the first time that you have been seeking a seat in the legislature of the Virgin Islands. You have ran many times before. And so this time, however, you're running as a Democrat.
Yes.
And so let's share with the people, once again, who may not know who you are, who you are, why you're running for public office.
Thanks, Emile. The reason why I'm running for Senate, I believe in St. Croix and the Virgin Islands as a whole. And I want to see a paradigm effective change within this government, especially the first branch of government. And there's many problems that's facing us here in this territory, especially here in St. Croix. We have a depressed economy, we have an infrastructure problem, we have a crime problem, and these are things I'm concerned about. As you all know, I'm also a 4th-generation farmer. My father was one of the biggest farmers here in St. Croix district, which I win actually 3 times in a row, Farmer of the Year. And my father passed away in 2007. So I'm trying to carry on his legacy. I am a broadcaster. I have worked in Channel 8 for over 23 years as a production manager, responsible for many programs like Doc James Prime Time, VI Views, different commercials, telethons. I mean, I've been engaged in the community over the years. So I bring things into your living room, into your bedroom, into your kitchen, whatever like it is. I'm a broadcaster. I'm also, as I said earlier, I'm a 4th-generation farmer, I'm a politician, I'm a community activist. So these are many reasons why I'm running for the Senate. And that's my strong point like it is, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
All right, George. So you, like I said earlier, this is not the first time that you have ran for office. What about this time makes it different? Other than the fact that you're running as a Democrat, what about this time makes different what you intend to do for the people of the Virgin Islands if you are in fact elected to office?
Well, one of the biggest things that's confronting us is the crime. And in the past, I did not use this as part of my platform. Actually, I'm talking about arts and technology. That's a big plus for me because when I look around this community, we are losing the young men and the young women in this community. You go to Kings Hill, look at the tombstones. You're talking about age 18 up to about 25, 31. We're losing them. So if we bring art into the forefront, we can actually occupy the minds into something creative because we have some very talented individuals here in this territory. If you go into most neighborhoods, you find a little group here or a little group there. They want to have a dance group. They're creating a band. They want to sing. They want to dance. So arts and technology will play a big front because there's a lot of resources out there where you can get funds from the National Endowment of the Arts to run these programs.
But Mr. Moore, you're mainly talking about prevention and rehabilitation,
right,
as well as utilizing education, whether it's through the paradigm of arts, technology, or whatever. That's not a novel thing, but how do you now make it a standard part of how we do business in the Virgin Islands when it comes to rehabilitating our young people and deterring our young people from engaging in criminal activity?
If you remember, you had the Youth Commission. Back then, that was a very excellent program, but it was only catered to certain things. So now what I'm bringing to you now is a broader scale. If you look at my platform, you see all the different concepts that we can bring into play. Okay?
But each and every time, but one thing I keep hearing is the youth commission, and those are some of the nostalgic things from the past that people keep on holding on to, and then they put it forth in an election cycle. What makes this idea any different from then? What makes this implementation any different from then? And what makes this is going to be a lasting part of our of government operation within the Virgin
Because
Islands?
I want to put that into the classrooms also. It's a very key factor. Put in the classrooms. Okay? Once that is set up there, because I said there's serious funds that come from the National Endowments of the Arts that we can utilize, millions and millions of dollars that we can utilize and actually set up that program into the school target starting from about the 5th grade up.
No. Go ahead.
You talk about crime. One of the reasons crime exists is because people don't have any money. How do you intend to bring jobs here or develop jobs from within?
Well, let me put it this way, boy. We have about 4 different hotels on the drawing board for the last 12 years. It still sits there. A way to start this economy is to start the construction of these hotels. Jobs, construction jobs. When you look around any community and you have construction going on, that means there's money in there, serious money. So we need to start building these hotels. If the hotels are built and completed, then we can have airlines come into our territory, especially here in St. Croix, because we have an international airport there that just sits there. You probably get 1 flight a day. That can't work.
When you say we building hotels, who's we?
I mean, the government, the situation now with the government, because these hotels are actually private individuals, and some of them want to be into the sense of public-private partnership. But there's some red tape that's taking place that preventing these hotels to move forward. And if this continues, we're actually in the hole right now, and the next thing is just throw the dirt on top of us right now.
No, but so are you going to be one who support legislation and put forth legislation to move in the road in Frederickstead and move in the road over by Cane Bay to encourage economic development and the erection of tourism and recreational activity?
It's not in a sense to move the roads. I understand about William a punch with the road situation and not in support of the roads being moved. I'm in support of the project, but not entirely in that process.
But let me put it to you, Mr. Moore. You drive by Rainbow Beach heading west. You drive by Cane Bay going west to Carambola. The road, Mother Nature is retreating on those roads. Cars are parked in the road. People are down there utilizing the beach, but it's an unsafe situation. Though it benefits us as much as it benefits maybe the hoteliers and everybody else, environmentally and economically, maybe to support the moving of those roads, maybe 50 feet back and whatnot. Sometimes these decisions are tough. Are you willing to make some of these tough decisions?
I will make
they may be unpopular.
I will make the tough decision. I don't know if you hear me on the campaign trail when I speak about I will not be bullied into silence. That's a strong message.
But sometimes we can be bullied into inaction.
Well, I am one individual. I cannot be bought.
Well, I'm going to bully you into an answer because I need to know what is your plan, a concrete plan for revenue generation? What are you going to do to bring money to this territory?
One of my revenue plan is to deal with, there's an agriculture plan that was put into place back in, I think it was 1986, 87, by the late Rudy Shelterbrand. And I want to revisit that plan to orchestrate it from a standpoint so we can actually stabilize this economy from that process with agriculture. Because we have fertile land here that we can plant so many different products in this territory, especially here in St. Croix. Like I remember back before my father passed away, he mentioned about the soil. It's so rich that you could take a knife and actually slice the earth like it is when you actually till it up and stuff like that. It is so moist and rich that he always talks about. And when I was small, I used to hear him saying that. I used to try to figure out exactly what he's talking about because St. Croix have the proper soil for agriculture, but the administration needs to put serious funds into that. But going away from that a little bit, you talk about revenue. We need a quick infusion of cash in this territory. And the process for that is sports tourism. That's the way to bring in revenue in this territory. If you do watch, like for reference, we have the FIFA situation taking place in Brazil right now. Look at the entourage of people that follow these teams individually like it is through the whole process. But away from that, we can't host those games here. We don't have the hotel rooms. That's going back into construction again, but we can't host those games here. But when you think about the preparation to get there, once we start to build these facilities, we can have this process in the sense of having teams come here to go through the qualification.
Well, in the concept, in the same vein of revenue generation,
right?
Would you support the decriminalization and the legalization of marijuana?
Well, I would not support the criminalization of marijuana in the totality like it is. I have to see some other research on that to verify what's happening. I will actually support medicinal use like it is.
Well, it seems that everybody is supporting medicinal use, so that means that bill should pass quick.
Eventually, because I've seen some national news stories concerning different individuals who have chronic diseases, and what the medicinal marijuana does for them to bring them back into a better standards of health. I would support that because I've seen it. I've seen these things from different angles.
But obesity, isn't obesity a chronic?
It is
considered a chronic disease.
But doesn't marijuana make you hungry?
But doesn't it say also it speeds up in metabolism? And
people should be smoking marijuana to make them hungry.
Who says so?
I don't think people should be doing
that.
that.
Agricultural plan you're talking about.
Would it include that? Will it include the farming of marijuana?
But if you don't get to that point about include the farming of marijuana, we have to have some ethical standards here in this territory, which we don't have before we proceed in that manner.
I understand that. Once it's in place, you willing to, or how do you intend to develop the people of this island to implement this plan or this agriculture plan that you plan to bring forth?
Well, as a broadcaster, once I'm in the 21st legislature, is to move to educate them from a visual standpoint and get the key people in areas to educate the masses concerning this agriculture plan, because this plan was there and it's still sitting there right now.
May I ask a question? How much does Diageo, what is the subsidy for molasses within that we gives to Diageo Cruiser Rum?
I think it's $1.16, right?
Okay, how much do they pay in aggregate every year for molasses?
I don't know.
Would that,
but
you say about 200 over?
That they're paying, that we're paying a bulk
of that money. No, may I ask a question? As part of, let's say we produce 1% of that molasses to give to Diageo. How much millions of dollars would that be? And is our agriculture industry producing at that amount right now?
No.
Okay.
No.
So couldn't that be a part of our agriculture plan to produce 1% of the molasses for Diageo or Crujan?
It makes sense, but it pulls back into the process of refining sugarcane.
But
to get molasses out
what's so wrong with refining sugarcane?
I'm not saying nothing is wrong with that.
We build all of these things for the white folk them that they took to Denmark and all them places.
Well, I tend to agree with you on that, but it's a process. But I'm saying if you get a chance, look into the
honestly,
plan.
We keep running away from what's in front of face in terms of our agricultural product.
No, I agree with you. I think
that can be done for it's a subsidy. It's already captured. Why can't we then say, okay, $4 million of that goes to the Virgin Islands farmers for growing sugarcane?
And we got to supply molasses to Diageo for the next, 30 years?
Yes, 30.
So
30 and possibly another 30 if they
think about that. How much millions of dollars of our own money is going back into our community to develop an industry and to pay income taxes and to make other people like you wealthy and your children after you, another 5th generation of farmer, wealthy? We can think
let me ask you this, Mr. Moore. The GRS, big issue. What is your plan to deal with the issue regarding GRS?
Well, the GRS situation is very ticklish because it seems to get to the point now that you have more retirees versus current employees that's paying into the system.
But that's usually what happens when you lay off 2,500 people. Go ahead.
So we have to find a way to levelize this process because it seems like we have to get an infusion of cash to balance it out, because right now I'm getting to Diageo now. See, like GRS is going to go belly up in the next 4 to 5 years, and we can't afford that to happen because all these individuals who are retirees now are depending on that retirement benefit to take them through life in the sense of all the medication. As a matter of fact, I know there's word out now to actually decrease the retirees by 10% and increase the current employees now by 15%. I'm not in favor of actually decreasing the current retirees by 10%. I think they need to leave it like it is right now because many of these individuals are actually living on fixed income. Some of them even making $16,000 when they are retired.
So you support more borrowing?
I don't support more borrowing like it is. We have to find reasonable ways of raising revenue in this territory. For reference, we could raise taxes on cigarettes and alcohol, because anyhow you put it, even though you raise those taxes, they will still buy the cigarettes and they will still buy the alcohol.
And cigarettes causes lung cancer.
Yes.
And alcohol causes cirrhosis of the liver.
Yes.
But nobody wants to decriminalize marijuana.
Well,
and how much money can they make in marijuana?
I'm just saying, people don't get happy when they're smoking marijuana. Just kind of chill out. I mean,
my son, mild and mellow boy.
I want to touch on something else too.
Yes.
You know, back in 2008, when I ran, I brought an issue forward to this community, and it's OTEC, Ocean Thermal Energy Conversion. You look at my platform; it's right there. And just recently, on March 5th of this year, I'm talking about vision now. March 5th of this year, Senate President Charles Michael Malone actually had a memorandum of understanding with the OTEC company. I did not get any credit for it, but I'm just saying vision. When you're running for elected office, you must have vision. Vision is dreams in motion. You must have that, and that's what makes a difference, and that's what I'm all about. I want to have the vision out there to bring different perspective to this St. Croix district, especially because St. Croix is first in my book, and then the Virgin Islands comes after that. You know, so those are my stands, and I'm very strong about it. And I also did a campaign issue concerning the environment when it comes to water situation over there, because many residents in the Richmond area, Chabot, LBJ, they actually was suffering from asthmatic chronic diseases. And recently the EPA fined WAPA concerning the emission and brought them into compliance in the 2001 Clean Air Act. And in essence, those are all my visions I bring forward. I still ain't getting no credit for this situation here. But I'm saying when you're running for political office, you must have vision to bring to the community. And if you don't have vision, the citizens of that community shall perish.
go ahead.
You support the separation between St. Croix and St. Thomas?
No, I don't support the separation. We are one Virgin Islands.
Yes, sir.
But I will tell like it is, the legislature, in my opinion, should be our portion. I would love to see that we break it down to at large. We can have 5 and 5 running at large,
yes,
and probably we could divide the other 5 amongst, in a sense, I know how to balance that out, but at least I will tell you right now,
right.
5 and 5 should be running at large.
So you would support reapportionment?
I will support that.
Yes, sir.
Wholeheartedly.
Okay, Mr. Moore, please let the audience know where they can find you to ask you any more questions that they may have.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. You can go to George Moore Political Action Committee, GMPAC. I have different information that you can actually subscribe and know what I'm all about. Check my history, check my background, check my education. It's all there for you like it is. I'm no stranger to this community. I've been out here for a very long time. You know, and matter of fact, a lot of folks don't know either. I was born in Antigua and I came here at the age of 5. And I'm a Crucian. I grew up in Grove Place. So it's very important to know my background like it is. I've been through the public school system. I have degrees in business administration, homeland security, and visual communication. So I'm not just a Johnny-come-lately. I'm about business. I'm a serious person. I'm also the vice chairman of the Virgin's Board of Directors for Public Television, which I contribute my time freely for the last 5 years. I don't take no compensation for any of the board meetings like other boards around here. So I'm about service above self.
Okay. Well, Mr. Moore, thank you so very much. And your number for the
my
primary?
number on August 2nd is number 7, George Moore. Don't be bullied to silence. Define yourself.
Well,
thank you and have a pleasant
And thank you
evening.
so very much for being on. When we return, we'll have Mr. Kurt Vialet. Back in a moment. Good evening and welcome back. We have with us Mr. Kurt Vialet, who should be no stranger to the St. Croix community, and he is seeking a seat as senator in the 31st legislature. However, he first has to go through a primary. on August 2nd. And so, welcome to VI Voices. This is your first time here, so I want to thank you for coming on and being able to be questioned about your platform, what you'll be doing. So, let the audience know, for those, for whatever reason, may not know who you are, let them know who you are and why you're running and seeking office.
Well, let me begin by stating my name. I'm Kurt Vialet. Some people are still surprised at which Vialet is running. It was trying to find out, is it you or who is it? But it is me. I've served 27 years in the Department of Education, 22 as an administrator, 17 of those 22 as a secondary principal. I served 5 years as a mathematics teacher at Elena Christian Junior High School. I was successful in opening the St. Croix Educational Complex, which was a unique experience, which I really enjoyed. In 2011, I was transferred to the Arthur Richards School, which at that point was considered one of the worst schools in St. Croix. And I think I've been able to turn it around in a year and a half. I think after a year we were really going good. It's been going really good right now. And I think it's my experience there working with those students that propelled me to run. I always felt that I wanted to run for politics, but when I was transferred to Arthur Richards, I literally met a different level of poverty, a different level of social issues, and I quickly realized that a lot of the issues that I was dealing with, I would not be able to fix just by being in education alone, that it was bigger than education. A lot of them had to do with unemployment, a lot of them had to do with single-parent homes, a lot had to do with individuals, a lot of students whose parents was killed in a violent incident, and I was just doing so much of the counseling and everything else, and at that point I said that I really wanted to move to the next level to help them, because I didn't believe, or I don't believe, that we're doing a good job in terms of dealing with the have-nots, those families that really need to be propelled to the next level. And I think that to a certain degree we have forgotten about them. And a lot of people in this community believe that as long as they're doing well, they don't have to worry about that particular social group. And if we don't take care of the social group, the Virgin Islands is going to have a lot of problems. So
now, one of my favorite movies is that movie, Lean on Me, and you often remind me of Joe Clark. And I will say that I've seen the transformation of Arthur Richards. I went to Arthur Richards, you went to Arthur Richards, and I've seen the transformation of it since you've been there. And so the next logical question that many people are going to have is, you're really good at what you do as a principal. Why would we want you out of that environment to put you into another environment?
I would think
yeah,
that
but I wanted to say it again.
I would say that you want to duplicate what I have done in the school system for the community of St. Croix. I have a passion for my island. I love St. Croix. I'm a proud Crucian. I was born here. My parents are here. My in-laws are here. We're all from the soil. And it's very important for me to make sure that St. Croix is able to move forward. And I've been very disappointed in the last 6-7 years as to the steady decline in everything, including education, but just all this. So I mean, we have moved to a different level that I have not seen in a long period of time, and our towns are dying, the economy is dying, and nobody's really paying attention to St. Croix. And I think that if I am successful, if I'm elected, I know for sure that I would be one individual that's going to make sure that I pay attention to St. Croix and don't get caught up with all of the bureaucracy.
From your perspective, our current educational system, is it preparing our young adults for the changing economy pertaining to the U.S. Virgin Islands?
I think one of my biggest pet peeves is all of the negative flack that our educational system gets.
Yes, sir.
We have produced a number of outstanding graduates, to include Ms. Nikki Turnbull here. We have produced a number of outstanding graduates. The problem that I had, and one of the reasons why I'm running, is that we didn't have the connect. We graduate and lose our top 40% of students every year to the mainland. We have no plan as to how we're going to be able to retain even 5 or 10% of that population. And every year that I had a graduation ceremony, my plea was, how are we going to make sure that these individuals return home so that we can grow the base that we have here? Because what has happened in the Virgin Islands, and is showing its root right now is that every year we lose our best and brightest students to the mainland. The students that stay here are the students that are struggling, the students that are having issues. And that population has been expanding because we never had a plan as to how we're going to attract those that are doing well to come back home. And one of my ideas was, you know, we needed to offer scholarships where we tie them to come back to the Virgin Islands. We
have a plan like that existing currently?
No, it's not. It's not. In the last 5 years, we brought in an influx of teachers from the Philippines, an influx of teachers from Jamaica, because we didn't have sufficient teachers in the island. We brought in over 100 individuals to St. Croix and 100 to St. Thomas to take positions that we could have offered scholarship for students from the Virgin Islands to go and take science education, math education, and come back home and teach. And it left us in a bad situation because a lot of those individuals' visa ran out and they had to go back and our classes are now being held with substitute teachers.
Mr. Vialet, at the beginning you said your exposure at Arthur Richards showed you that a lot of people were denied, and I further this by saying denied access to opportunity, denied access to this. Now, how do you, if you do get elected and go to the legislature, how do you go about opening up the doors so opportunities now can come to this collective population, especially the young and those that are in desperate need?
Yeah, we have schools on St. Croix that are deemed red and green. Green are schools that have met AYP, red are schools that are failing. There's no difference in the plan for red and green schools. Across the mainland, red schools are given additional funds in order to start innovative programs. When I got to Arthur Richards, one of my first concerns was, I need a social worker stationed at the school. Second was, I need a psychologist stationed at the school because I had so much students whose parent was killed in a violent incident that had not gotten over that, and I needed a grief counseling. My regular counselors can't deal with it. So my idea was that you need to look at the community that you're serving, and your staff should represent that community. These red schools, Juanita Gardine, Charles H., Arthur Richards, Claude Marco, we all need social workers, we all need psychologists, because we have a lot of people that come in, a parent that come in, she was trying to get you Section 8, she has some issues with food stamps, she has some issues with social welfare. If I had a social worker there, I could tie everything in.
So are we going to see that as part of your work within the legislature, if you're elected, that you're going to work to maybe put governance in the hands of the Board of Education and address some of those needs that you're talking about?
I believe in governance in the Board of Education. However, you have to set qualifications for the board. I don't just believe in open governance. You need, just like the Casino Commission, I would set specific qualifications for each position. One person
You mean you actually want them to know something before they go there?
And my idea is that one person should have a law background, one person should have accounting to deal with the federal funds, one person should have education, you could have a parent, but you have to have specific background so that they could be able to make educated decisions in terms of the direction that education is going to go.
I remember a senator sponsored a legislation a few terms back. He ran on this legislation about moving the capital from St. Thomas to St. Croix. Then he sponsored a feel-good legislation, knowing full well, are you going to put forth a true legislation that with some force that will make the attempt to bring governance to the board and address some of those concerns you're talking about in terms of qualifications for board members?
For sure. That's a definite yes, because I do believe in governance to the board. I am not pleased with the direction that the Department of Education has taken for the last couple of years, and I believe that there are solutions, but for whatever reasons we're not moving toward those solutions, and I think governance of the board will solve a lot of those problems, because a board can hire and fire the superintendent whenever they see fit. Now we got to move in that direction.
I agree. What is your plan for revenue generation in this territory?
Okay, well, when I thought about that issue, two things went through my mind. What can we immediately accomplish now, and what would be more long-term? There are two areas that I feel that we could immediately accomplish now. And one is the expansion of UVI. And I said the expansion of UVI because I personally know of so much students from St. Croix who have applied to St. Thomas to get into the math science program, have got in, but have not received a room and had to relocate to the mainland because they couldn't get in. We need to expand the program here. UVI just got a big donor that's going to provide money to establish a medical school. Just got it. They just announced it.
Right.
Immediately, one of my first legislation would be to make sure that a medical school is built in St. Croix, because St. Croix at this point is suffering. In addition to that, in order to get the medical school going, St. Thomas is a school that have the science program. And we need to make sure that we expand our majors here to offer bachelor's degree in the nursing, bachelor's degree in biology, in chemistry, and all of those areas, so we could directly feed into that medical school. A next area that I have discussed that is a bit, I won't say controversial, but some people are saying because of the way that we think, is that I really feel that the center that's going to be located at Mars Hill, the sports center, need to be built at UVI, which is also in the Fredericton district. And the reason why, they're going to be building dormitories. That would allow us to expand the university. If you expand the university, you expand the majors that they're offering, you're going to be getting an additional amount of professors. You're going to be expanding the middle class base. The next area that I'd like to do is our cardiac center was ready to take off about 4 or 5 years ago. We had a doctor that came in, he was doing bypass surgery. For whatever reason, he was literally ran out of the island and he left. But
we know why, but go ahead.
I won't say, but the cardiac center was really doing well then. We need to bring in specialists to our hospital so that we are not allowing our insured patients to leave and go to Cleveland Clinic and spend millions of dollars every year. And one of my proposals is that we have the students from UVI do a simple survey as to what is the most common illness that they're going to Cleveland Clinic for. And then we hire specialists here so we can retain the insurance money, because the bulk that is seen here is uncompensated care. So I think that expanding our healthcare system and UVI is an immediate win-win. There are a lot of towns in America that are built on universities. A lot of towns that are university towns. The whole town is run based on university. We could build that same system here and make UVI what it is and expand the agriculture program, everything else.
Very quickly, you spoke very passionately about being a crucian, being banned and St. Croix. You believe in the separation of the both islands, St. Croix and St. Thomas? Would you support that?
That's a tough question. Let me preview. My father is St. Thomas. Vialet is a St. Thomas last name.
Yes.
My mom is Crucian. I believe that we have not been given a fair share. But I truly believe that part of us not getting a fair share has nothing to do with St. Thomas. It has to do with us. Crucians are so against each other that we have literally destroyed ourselves, while St. Thomas have collectively made sure that they're able to move forward. And I've had an argument with my mom for a number of years where she is always cursing the St. Thomas senators. And I've always turned and said, Mom, we're cursing them. They're doing their job. They're representing their island. We need to do the same. If we come together as an island, if we step out of this separation based on ethnic group, based on East, based on West, we'll be able to move St. Croix forward. But we got to believe in where we're from first. Sometimes I get some flack because they say I'm too proud of Crucian. But I say I don't know anybody from any Caribbean island that are not proud of where they come from. So don't knock me for being proud of where I come from. Especially if you live here, you also need to be proud of St. Croix and be able to move forward. But the separation is extreme. But I do believe in changing governance. You know, we need a municipality. We need to change that whole structure of government, because this unicameral system ain't working.
I agree.
Mr. Vialet, the way you offer two generating ideas, and both of them centered on UVI. And
one is cardiac center.
Right.
Okay, so it's actually one is cardiac center. And I missed it because I thought the two of them was the two that you mentioned.
But it could be tied in.
Yeah,
you're right. They could.
In terms of UVI, you talk about moving the center from Mars Hill. I may suggest that you want to modify it. Maybe it remains, UVI's West Campus, since the land is already there, and it's remain under UVI's governance and ownership, and you just have a West Campus.
Based on what?
Based on me sleeping next to the jail.
No. It's not based on.
But if you look at it, well, what I looked at is you have a triangle of athletic facility. There's monies that have already been passed for complex track.
Correct.
There's monies that have been passed for Central High Track. They're no more than a mile from UVI.
Right.
You would have sporting facilities in an area of 1 mile. If you have a basketball tournament with teams from college, your practice facilities that are 2 minutes and 5 minutes away. It's a win-win for all of us. We got to stop looking at location on this island and look at what is best for the overall island, because a lot of our decisions, and a lot of individuals are getting elected, they're making decisions based on where something is being placed. They're making decisions based on who is going to get upset and who is not going to get upset.
Mr. Vialet, one thing, you know me, I don't care who's going to get upset.
Okay.
Well, my thing about it is this. With that, it may allow you to maybe build more stuff. UVI to me, if you look at, I think the space is already at its max for the kind of facility.
For UVI?
I believe so.
Well, then St. Thomas has to be bursted.
No, I know you're talking about.
Well, they'll blow up a mountain to build whatever they want. So I agree with you that I agree with you of the creation of a town around a
UVI,
university.
Correct.
My undergraduate university, the town was the university, and everything was centered around the town.
But could be the whole thing around UVI.
Right,
But my idea is that we have limited resources. If you build, the plan has dormitories built into it, okay? Why can't those dormitories be used throughout the year for students that are going to UVI? Then you could expand the student population. I am looking at utilizing the limited resources for our best interest. If it's not moved, then I don't have any, if it's not moved, then my next suggestion would be to make one center at Polly Joseph. Don't build two separate things. Make it one center at Polly Joseph with all the amenities there. But don't have one there, one here, one company there, one there.
I agree with that.
No, but you see, what you're hinting at, which to me is missed, is this whole notion of education tourism that once upon a time was what UVI St. Thomas was. A big education tourism was a big part of our product. And it needs to be back again.
Oh, I want to ask you one quick question, because we usually have Yoki Hanley on the show, and she's not here tonight. I don't want her to kill me for not asking you this question. What is your stance on the decriminalization or the legalization of marijuana, cannabis?
Decriminalization, yes. Legalization, no.
Why?
I have closely seen the effect of marijuana on our teenage population, and it has literally just destroyed a lot of Virgin Islanders, and there's no way that I would ever go for the legalization of marijuana. And when I look at the other factors, the areas or the states as it's being legalized, it's not being grown next to communities, it's being grown hundreds of miles away in the boondocks. They did a special on CNN, and they didn't even disclose where the marijuana farms were.
Some might argue that point, though, that alcohol does the same thing.
But I wasn't arguing that point. I was arguing a marijuana field by but listen what I'm saying. If you have a marijuana field by Lower Love, how much fence you can put to surround the marijuana field in order to protect it?
Enough to protect the revenue. But the point is, alcohol does the same thing.
But
we have a problem. We have an issue right now currently with alcohol.
But the question was, the issue that we have in schools now are not students and alcohol. It is students and marijuana. Okay. It is clearly students who are addicted to marijuana. And the bad thing is that we don't have any programs on St. Croix to deal with juvenile addiction to marijuana.
That is true. That is true. Well, Mr. Vialet, I would like for you to let our audience know where they can find you if they have more questions for you. Because you only have 20 minutes. We can't get to everything.
This was a short 20 minutes.
Yes, it was. Where we can find you to ask you more questions.
Well, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Facebook at Ready for Vialet. I also have a website, readyforvialet.org. I'm in the community. My number is listed in the book. Anybody could call me that want to get in contact with me. I'm always on the road. I'm always at sporting events. I'm all over this island. And I've been all over this island before running. So I'm not out there now because I'm running. I'm a regular at horse race, basketball, everything that you could think about. So.
And what is your number for the primary? You're in the primary. I think we have a primary going on, but you're in the primary. What is your number for the primary?
We have a big primary going on.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Because I'm feeling
Well, I can't tell lots of
last year we didn't have a primary. This year we have 14 candidates vying for 7 Democratic seats.
Okay.
So it's a
I can
large
hardly
primary, and
believe
I'm number 13.
You're number 13.
But you can remember
Lucky
Kurt
13.
Vialet. Yes.
Kurt Vialet, all right. So you've heard it. He's lucky number 13, Kurt Vialet, seeking a seat in the 31st legislature of the Virgin Islands. He said where you can find him. And so I thank you so much for coming on to VI Voices tonight. And we'll see what happens after the general election. And after the, that might be a Freudian, after the primary election. All right?
And I want to thank you guys. This is a really nice concept. So I want to thank whoever was the brainchild behind of this. Congratulations to you guys and good job.
Thank you so much. We'll be back in a moment with Mr. Novelle Francis. Good evening and welcome back to VI Voices. We have with us now Mr. Novelle Francis, who should be no stranger to the Virgin Islands community, as he was formerly our Commissioner of Police. And now he is here with us to talk about his campaign, and he's running for a seat in the 31st legislature of the Virgin Islands. He's running as a Democrat, and he's seeking his party's nomination to the general election for that. So welcome to VI Voices. This is your first time here, so welcome. And I appreciate you being on the show tonight. You can say, yeah.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right.
You just
Are you willing for me to go right?
Yeah.
All right. And
thank you very much for having me. I look forward to this hot seat this evening.
So let the audience know a little bit of who you are, for those who may not know who you are and why you're running for Senate.
Absolutely. I'm Novelle A. Francis Jr., and I'm a son of the soil, born and raised here in St. Croix, and I've spent my life in public service somewhat. I started out as a youngster. I've attended the public school system. I have participated in most of the youth organization, as most of us around the table. I joined the Virgin Islands Police Department after leaving high school and college, and I spent the last 25 years there. I rose from the rank of police officer all the way up and retired as the police commissioner in August of 2011. And obviously, once leaving the police department, I went into retirement for a little while and then started to work in my family business. And I'll tell you that I'm amazed at what St. Croix has become over the last several years, and more so over the last 2 years. And as a result of that, talking to people, being approached by people, and from all walks of life, I was strongly encouraged to put my hat in the ring as an example of bringing forth some good leadership into our Senate and try to build the confidence in the Senate and bring some prosperity to St. Croix. So that's the reason why I'm running. And again, I want to offer my 25 years of law enforcement experience as well as leadership experience in public service.
Okay. All right. Well, tell us a little bit of what is your plan for revenue generation in the territory, and particularly for St. Croix?
Thank you very much for asking that question, because as a small business owner myself, I'm very, very discouraged by what I'm seeing here. I think with the loss of Hovensa, I've seen a serious decline, and I think that Hovensa and the numbers, is discussed in very different forums, that we have lost approximately $600 million from this economy. And I, as a business person, have certainly felt it. I've seen it live and direct every single day as we traverse throughout this community. And what hurts me is in terms of the poverty level that we're seeing. I encounter people on a daily basis that don't even have the basic necessities to survive. I'm talking about people that have now scraped the bottom of their piggy banks. I'm talking about the pennies and nickels to make ends meet. I'm talking about people that don't have power, electricity in their home, where they're purchasing ice every single night just to keep their formulas and juices cold for their kids. I'm talking about people that don't even have snacks to give the kids to attend school. So in terms of revenue generation, I want to do a dual approach. First, we want to bring new monies into our economy by ensuring that our small businesses in this community start to grow. I think that the small businesses are the bedrock of our community. They're the ones that pay the taxes every single day, while equally trying to attract light industry as well as medium industry manufacturers into St. Croix, and more importantly, to become a little bit more business friendly. We have a number of businesses that's waiting in the wind right now. If you talk to the folks over at EDC, where people have applications waiting. Some of them are waiting just for the Senate to change so that they could actually complete their application, because we have become so unbusiness friendly like that, people are actually packing up once they approach some of our licensing procedure here and moving 40 miles north to St. Thomas and as well as to Puerto Rico and actually opening business there.
Novelle,
Yes.
if I may call you Novelle.
Absolutely.
Today I was scanning through the Avis, and I believe one of the headlines was by, and there was a picture of that, the Commissioner of Labor, and he said that the Virgin Islands, lack adequate workforce for the kind of industries that we presently want to attract, and for even the global economy. What would be your plan to bring about a workforce so we can start to attract those industries that you may be targeting and he may have in mind?
Well, I'll tell you that Commissioner Bryan was very correct in terms of not having a well-prepared workforce. And when we look at it is in terms of our challenges with our Department of Education in the first place. All right, we have to address that issue. But our workforce, we have no way of knowing exactly for the next 10 years what type of industries or what type of technology, whatever is going to come forth in terms of work opportunities that will be available to our youngsters. All right, so that's the first thing that we have to do is come up with that listing that will be necessary to determine what those job opportunities will be going forward. Once we have done that, then we need to engage all the stakeholders, Department of Education, Department of Labor, the government. More importantly, UVI have to be a part of this process, again, to be able to train and start to build our youngsters as well as our older folks, those that's 20, 30, 40 years old, so that they could be better prepared to take on this workforce. But what hurts me the most is that even though we talk about us not being prepared, we see that people come in here every Monday morning, coming in from Puerto Rico and elsewhere, and leaving on Friday. All right, and I think that we should be able to at least direct traffic here. Not even that we are getting those jobs we're getting here. So there needs to be some type of a policy in terms of disallowing people to just come in here and get job opportunities that our local people certainly should qualify for.
But one of the biggest offenders is the government, our government contractors. How do we put forth legislation to make sure that at least the government hire local and its subcontractors hire locally?
Well, in some instances, we don't even have to put forth legislation because it's already in place. All we have to do is enforce those legislations.
Okay.
Law enforcement background.
Yes.
Crime. How are you going to address this illegal entry of weapons into this community?
Well, I'll tell you that one thing that I want to make clear here is that I have spent the last 25 years as an enforcer. I no longer want to be an enforcer. I want to start to create policies in terms of creating rehabilitation, in terms of addressing our education system, and those type of things that could prevent crime from occurring. Because crime, if someone's arm is cut off, they'll never be able to grow back, even though you're able to arrest that person and put them away. So I want to be able to address the issue of prevention from the onset of that.
And how will you do so?
I'll do so by, again, creating rehabilitation programs, because we see that we have this high level of recidivism where we have the same individuals that go to jail and come right back out, and they're not reintegrated, and they come back into the communities and they commit crime.
My question speaks specifically to the entry of illegal weapons.
Okay. In terms of illegal weapons, and that's one of the problems that we certainly face because our borders are wide open.
Right.
All right. We have not done a good job in terms of getting the resources for us to be able to secure our borders. We see that these resources are being taken down to Barbados. We see that these resources are going to Antigua and those other places where the Coast Guard and everyone else is involved in guns and drug interdiction, while the Virgin Islands, which is part of the United States, is left unattended. So what I want to do is to make sure that I will continue to cooperate with those federal agencies that's responsible for protecting our borders. I had been very effective at that when I was in law enforcement. I was able to galvanize and engage all the law enforcement entities, to assist us in our crime fighting efforts. And I think we wanted to revisit that.
Now, one of the things... I'm sorry, go ahead.
was talking about the law that was being passed by Senate regarding the
Peace officers.
Right, peace officer status. Isn't that already in place? We talk about enforcement just now.
Yeah, it's not quite in place. I think that it's a watered down process in terms of a law. I think we were able to just fast track something so that we could get something in place, but at the same time it doesn't really have the necessary teeth to ensure and satisfy both the federal agencies as well as the local in order to ensure that they continue to collaborate and work together. While we're able to definitely see where the federal government is willing to, federal law enforcement is willing to do the checks, the weapons check and those type of things, there's no real enforcement occurring on our day-to-day enforcement in terms of the street corners in our communities, in terms of weapons coming into the territory.
VIPD and DPNR, what role they going to play? Well, they can play a role, you know that.
Well, obviously, they play a role in terms of their jurisdiction.
Right.
There's a limited jurisdiction.
But I'm talking about once entry.
Once entry occurs, then they have to play a role in terms of then protecting our homeland by going out and do those required enforcement in our homeland and also within the 2-mile radius that they're responsible.
Well, we know the role that they've been playing. At least some of them have been playing as protectors of our area. I'm talking about the people at DPNR, tapping all those other people. So we know the role they've been playing, and that was going to be my question, because one of the issues with crime is, and the inability to really, in my view, the challenge is that the public's lack of trust in our police officers or our law enforcement. I don't want to just say police, law enforcement officers. And this, the VIPD and a lot of our law enforcement has been no stranger to scandal. And so you were former commissioner of police.
Yes.
And during that time, scandal, but not necessarily you, but I'm saying, but with police officers and people viewing them and them being involved in crimes, how will you now as a senator deal with the issue of how the public views our law enforcement, deal with the issues of how we can deal with these people who are to serve and protect, but they're actually the criminals? How are you going to deal with that issue?
Well, the same way that I dealt with it when I was police commissioner. Certainly I took the bull by the horn and I addressed the issue by ensuring that our officers clean them from the inside out and put them on notice. You know what I'm saying? Put them on notice that this will not be tolerated. I said at the onset of my tenure as police commissioner that you'll decide if you're going to wear the blue uniform or the orange jumpsuit. And if you look, the record will show that a significant number of officers were arrested during my tenure as police commissioner because I took that no-nonsense approach. I realized that if we're going to build the confidence of the community, that we have to clean from the inside out. And I did that.
Good. Now, this might be a difficult question for you because you're a police commissioner and you're in law enforcement. Or maybe it's not. Marijuana. Are you in favor of the decriminalization or the legalization of marijuana now that you no longer have to enforce?
Well, now that I no longer have to enforce, I have liked my stance somewhat. Before I said totally no. I had no discussion. I didn't want to have no discussion in terms of legalization. Right now my position is decriminalization. And the reason, and also medicinal use of course. I say no, hell no to legalization at this point. All right, I again recognize my role as a senator where if in fact there's a referendum that's like what's being proposed and the people decide that that's what they want, then certainly I'll have to go along with that after some careful vetting as well as some make sure that some education policies are in place. And the reason why, again, when you look at decriminalization, it costs this government too much money to criminalize simple possession. All right, we spend money in terms of the arresting officer. We spend money in terms of now prosecuting them, as well as then housing them in penitentiaries or jail prison system. So I am of the position that I will move for decriminalization more so than legalization.
Okay. GRS is another major issue plaguing it. I'm sure that you are a member.
I'm a beneficiary.
Yes, a beneficiary, right?
Beneficiary of GRS.
Yeah, and so you know that they want to reduce your annuity. Well, that's one of the plans is to do so. How are you going to deal with the issues? What legislation are you going to propose for you to be able to deal with this GRS issue?
Well, the GRS issue is something that's very near and dear to my heart. And I have looked at some of the reform recommendations that have been made regarding the GRS. And again, I'm a beneficiary of it, so I want to see it for the longevity. But there's a bitter pill that we have to take. GRS, again, if that goes belly up and insolvent, we have $192 million that this general government will have to pick up the slack on. We know we're in crisis already, so we won't be able to do that. So there's a bitter pill that we have to take in terms of looking at the GRS system in the out years. And my policy would be, again, for us to look at restructuring the way we do business with GRS. But more so is to extend the term. I think that being able to retire at 45 years old and living for the next 30, 40 years is creating a hardship and a burden on the system. I'm living proof of that. So, we don't want to penalize those people that's already in government, but I think that moving forward, we have to extend that term perhaps a little bit longer. Whether it's 30, 35 years, especially for Title III employees, but we have to extend that term so that we don't continue to see the unfunded liabilities that we're seeing going into the future.
So are you saying that you're talking about extending years of service as well as instituting a minimum retirement age for GRS? Is that what you're...
I think there's already now,
Yes.
there's now one already, a minimum age. The minimum age.
Yes, but to extend that out because again, we can't continue to. I think the bottom line is, and I think that the retirees could appreciate this, if it goes belly up, it benefits no one in the long run. So we'll need to do whatever needs to be done at this point to make sure that the GRS system remains solvent.
How about how about expanding the time that the senators would qualify to vest for that? Because I think it's 6 terms they get to do?
Yes.
As long as they do 3 terms. As long as they do 3 terms, they get 100% of...
No, that's not.
How much do they get?
It's very, very small percentage. I think it's like 17 or some 20% if you do 6 term, and then there's a sliding scale as you go along. But it's not.
I think
you have to do more than 20 years in order to get 100%.
In the Senate?
In the Senate.
Okay. And so you vest after 3 terms. So after 6 years, you vest to get 40% of your money?
No, it's a little bit less than 40%. I think it's like 17% when I looked at
That
the
little,
numbers.
17?
Yes.
But see,
And I think that what we need to do is to make sure that people are better educated in terms of these policy statement, legislation, and laws that's made. That's one of the things that we want to make sure as we go into the 31st legislature is to come back and really educate the public on some of these legislation because misinformation is out there and people have a tendency to run with it. But when you look at it, a senator has to work 20 or more years in order to get this 100%, and it's not truly 100% that they're actually eligible for.
But think about it. A teacher has to work 30 years to
No,
get
40.
30 years. I'm going to say just to get the minimum.
To get the minimum. That's correct. Just to get the minimum.
Of GRS.
Correct.
40 years to get.
But that's not the minimum though. When they work 30 years, they get 30 times 2.5.
Correct. And they're capped at $75,000.
65.
65,000.
Yes.
75%.
But everybody's capped at 65.
But my thing is, we need to bring some more equity into the system, as well as the GRs need to be probably made more creative. Like in terms of the senators, maybe we don't want to come up with a 401k plan for that small group as a pilot project for senators, and then see how that works.
One of the issues that we have faced is that we continue to advocate for a less number of government employees, and that is actually hurting.
Oh, we ain't advocate for that.
No.
We didn't advocate for
there are
that.
people out there that's advocating for
Your former boss. advocated for that.
So,
Let me answer this very quickly. You're running a Democrat. Everybody knows the Democratic stronghold in St. Thomas. Everything that you plan to do currently, everything you spoke about right now tonight, how you plan to get that passed, or how you plan to work with other senators, knowing that the Democratic Party stronghold is in St. Thomas.
well,
Without sacrificing St. Croix.
I'm not waiting to be elected. I want to say that I have had territorial responsibility for the last 15 years, and I have not allowed myself to fall into the
Trap.
quote-unquote corruption of St. Thomas. I have used what St. Thomas did well for St. Thomas, and what St. Croix did well, we use on St. Croix. And also, what I've done is start to engage some of my colleagues again, so that we could have a consensus on day one, so that we could move forward as a unit with a consensus going forward. I've already made it public that I don't want no calls from St. Thomas on Victory Night. You know, we want to make sure that we could organize here in St. Croix in terms of trying to create a majority here in St. Croix before we move anywhere else.
You realize this will happen every 2 years, right?
I'm sorry?
You realize that will happen every 2 years?
No, it don't happen every 2 years. What happens in reality, and I've been around politics long enough to know that on Victory Night, phone calls already made for individuals to catch a private flight over to St. Thomas, where they start to caucus in terms of formulation of the Senate.
Right. And I know that as
Well, Mr. Francis, I want you to let people know where we can find you if we have more questions for you.
Yes.
And, you know, let us know about how we can deal with that issues.
Again,
issues that you have.
Novelle Francis Jr., 25-year law enforcement experience, private sector experience in terms of a business owner. I have a Facebook page. My slogan is Focus Forward. We want to spend a whole lot of time on the blame game, but more so that we could focus on what needs to be done to bring some prosperity to St. Croix as we move forward. I could be found at website. I'm all over the community. Again, as I go into these various communities in terms of canvassing, you know, I have a headquarters that's located down at the Oasis building next to the Mountain gas station. You can certainly come and meet me there at any given time. And my phone number is in the phone book. They have been for the last 25 years while I was within the police department. I'm still available to you. I'm very approachable. So certainly, like we have been doing, continue to approach me and discuss those issues and concerns that you may have, as well as your ideas.
Well, thank you so much. And what is your number for the primary?
My number is number 4. Say no more, vote number 4. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on. Don't go yet. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. You know, we will see what happens when the primary gets here, and after August 2nd, we will know who will be the 7 that will go there, and hopefully you'll be one of those individuals, and we'll see, you know, what will happen from that point on. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming on. We'll be back in a moment. And welcome back. Tonight we've had a very interesting night. We've had our first 3 aspirants on the show tonight, and we've questioned them and asked them certain questions about their issues, and hopefully you've heard enough that you're able to begin the process to go further with them and ask them questions, find them, and discuss some more with them. 3 very different personalities, 3 very different people who are looking at the canvas of how to deal with the issues, but it appears that they all have the same common purpose of wanting to build St. Croix and get it to a place where they're going. I heard some wonderful things tonight by some of them, and I just hope that if they are in fact elected, that those things actually come into fruition. What were your thoughts for tonight, Boyd?
I think the 3, actually the 4, well, no, I'm gonna stick with the 3. I think the 3, I think the 3 aspirants were pretty good. They had very nice ideas. One in particular, I really appreciate him, and I'm going to be looking forward to hearing him some more.
Okay.
The 3 Democratic aspirants, because I think we have to make mention that they are Democratic aspirants running this Democratic primary. I think they came up with some very good ideas, especially for revenue generation. I also heard a common theme of education.
Yes.
Because education is big. No matter whether you're in the police department or you're working within the economy, you have to educate your people and get them ready for your economy, or even get them ready for the new ideas and a new way of doing things. And I like that. So I'm looking forward to what they may offer if they are elected, and even hearing the new candidate, the other candidates when they come, and see how if they're all in line and if all of them have that similar theme of education, St. Croix first, and economic revenue generation to grow our economy.
And they seem to be willing to stand alone, seem to be willing to make the hard decisions that they need to make without being bullied into doing what everybody wants them to do. And they seem to have their own independent ideas, their own independent thoughts, and I think that's what you want in a legislature. But in addition to being able to cohesively work with others. And that's going to be an important factor as well.
Correct. And one of the things that they said is that one of them learned because one of them was inspired by their job in terms of that what was taking place and why they were running. The other also spoke of, okay, I've been about the community and I'm seeing these things taking place. And you see all of those things that we are talking about, and you have to understand that you don't just you not just have to get up tomorrow and say I'm going to run for office. These people.
Some people do.
Some people do.
Yeah.
But these gentlemen have lived in the community for ever so long. They've turned soil in the community, and they've realized that it starts here. It starts at the bottom, and I'm a part of this community, and I'm going to be a change agent in this community.
I agree. Well, this will be a very interesting election cycle. I've seen the list of candidates, and it will be very interesting. And lots of different personalities. And,
for the love of St. Croix.
For the love of St. Croix, every 2 years, biannually. And so we want to make sure that they're here tonight, and they're going to be coming to the show. We've invited every person who will be running for public office.
Say it again. Say it again.
And some may come, some may not come. Yeah.
We invite every person.
And some may come, and some may not
refuse.
Come. And we'll let you know who refuses. But we want to make sure that you go out and that you register to vote if you're not registered, and that you actually use your voice and vote. That's where it matters, there on election day, when you push that button and you vote for those individuals. Remember to be sure to be informed, and to get that information, ask questions. It is your responsibility to do so, and we hope that you'll do that. So, for tonight, we say good night, and we'll see you next week when we have the others. Good night.
Good night.